I'm gonna catch some heat for this, but here you go. Saturated coaching niches don't exist, and I firmly believe that this concept of saturation is destroying your coaching business for absolutely no reason. I've personally scaled multiple coaching businesses to above 10K per month and have analyzed how hundreds of the best coaches work and operate. And what I've found is that 99% of people use the word saturated coaching niche in a way that makes absolutely no sense. So in this video, I'll be breaking down what most coaches think, how that is destroying their business, what the reality is, and how you can use the reality to enhance and grow your coaching business no matter what niche you are in. Not gonna lie, this is a pretty high energy video so far, but let's get straight into it. I wanted to show you a little bit of social proof, just so you know that I've been growing coaching businesses for a while now, and I wanted to show you this concept of why saturated coaching niches don't exist by the example of a fitness coach, because many people know that there are a plethora of online fitness coaches and even growing by the day. But I wanted to point out that even though most people think that I can't be a successful fitness coach because there are too many already, it's simply not true. It's simply a wrong statement. That's because the fitness market, that means the market of obese people, is expanding. You can see the stats for the US over here. So just by the virtue of this data, you're already in the wrong, because now the fact that there are too many and a growing number of online coaches, online fitness coaches, is not enough for you to call it saturated, because the market is growing as well. So you have to compare the growth of the market compared to the amount of fitness coaches there are in the market, and to draw conclusions from there instead of just saying that there are a lot. Because what if the market is just huge? Then the market needs a lot of fitness coaches so that it's not saturated. Second, there is a hyper low barrier of entry, which means that 99% of coaches are non-battle tested amateurs. This means that these are essentially people who have been a online fitness coach for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or possibly even years, but have not seen any substantial progress that would allow them to finally break out of that, 2, 3, 4, 5K per month range and finally become more of a battle-tested and respected online coach. And just because there are so many amateurs, people will start to see everyone as a scammer, which then in turn means that you just need to be different enough, not always better. So you don't necessarily have to be a better online coach, you just need to be different enough and have a new perspective, a new angle that you can approach these problems, because the problems are still there. The problems are expanding, the problems are going up. So how can you communicate your solution in a way where people don't have this alarm going off in their head that, oh shit, it's another online scammer, it's another online fitness coach who's going to sell me online accountability training or whatever it may be. But you have to be just different enough, not necessarily better. So this is your opportunity. You have to compare the pain in the market compared to the number of experts provided in order to call something saturated. Because how can something be saturated if the market is still underserved by experts? Because at the end of the day, every single amateur and scamming person, 99% of non-battle tested amateurs, they won't really be contributing to solving the problems of the prospects, these types of people. So even though there are a lot of people, there is still unresolved pain in the market. What we have to take a look at is the pain in the market and the number of expert providers. There is a certain line which then divides the not saturated niches from the saturated niches. And this also in turn means that a saturated niche is only saturated once there are enough expert providers. But by just the virtue of the population's problems going up instead of being resolved continuously, it also means that there are most probably not enough expert providers. And we get to the answer that you actually just need to be different enough to be successful. You don't need to be better necessarily, you just have to differentiate yourself from the preconceived amateurs so that you even get a chance, because a lot of online coaches, even in this 99% non-beta tested amateurs, could get some people results. They are just perceived as the same exact type of archetype online because they are not different enough. So let me show you the reality of a globally saturated niche, which doesn't really exist, only on average. So a saturated can be globally saturated or locally saturated. A globally saturated niche is what most people call a niche if they are on average saturated, which means that there are some sub-niches within the niche that have enough, not only number of providers, but also number of expert providers, and where the pain is actually just resolved. So there's not enough pain in the market, you can't really sell anything. So this is what a globally saturated niche would be. But what's happening in reality is that a globally saturated niche actually is just globally saturated on average, which means some sub-niches are saturated, like for example this one over here, but some sub-niches are not saturated. Some sub-niches have opportunity in them. These are the green circles over here. So that means that essentially what you have to do, you can stay in the same niche where you have gained your expertise. You just have to find the sub-niches that are underserved and where there is still pain in the market. Now, you might be faced with a couple of challenges when you are trying to find the exact sub-niches where you can find opportunity. First is finding an opportunity-rich sub-niche. Second is defying the skepticism that comes along with you being a provider in a niche where, everyone is perceived as a scammer. And then thirdly, the running your business correctly, which will then establish you as an authority. And even if your sub-niche once down the line becomes saturated, you still have the first mover advantage and you will still retain a big market share and not just drop off the second there are too many expert providers and you can't keep up. So let's start with the finding an opportunity in a rich sub-niche. To find a rich sub-niche, first of all, you have to define a transformation. Define the starting state, the A, and the desired state of your prospect, the B. Then you can segment your niche, which means that you will segment your niche by a geographic analysis, psychographic analysis, demographic analysis, workplace, if it's a B2C offer, client acquisition, if it's a B2B offer, client acquisition place. This segmentation will then give you the different sub-niches and you will be able to see more clearly what you are even working with. After this step, you can find the segments who have access to money. Now, I have to stress that you don't necessarily have to go after a segment that is already known to have money, because if you find a new approach for someone to access money, then you will also find an untapped niche with very high potential. So, for example, if no one helps people secure a low interest rate on credit, which then they use to buy your service, that is an untapped niche, because no one is helping people get money to buy their service. I know you probably haven't thought of this, but if you implement some of these strategies, then you will actually allow people more easily to afford your service, which will make you, in their eyes, cheaper, although they are paying you in an absolute amount more money than they are paying someone else. Second, if, for example, no one helps college students convince their parents that they need a course/mentorship, that is an untapped sub-niche, because other course creators, mentorship providers rely on college students already being able to convince their parents to do something. But if you give them tools, if you give them a mindset, if you give them data that they can then use to convince their parents to grant them access to their money, then that is an untapped sub-niche, because no one is getting their money from that place. That is completely untapped for most people. Then I probably think you already have a niche at this stage, but let's say that you don't, then you can just interview and choose a sub-niche from there. And by interviewing, I mean literally talking to the people that you will want to sell to. So people in the niche. Asking people where they are right now, what they have tried so far, what sort of roadblocks they have faced, where they want to get exactly, what service providers they have tried so far, and identifying the exact points of failure, things that they didn't get from them, things that they needed from them. Now this will definitely help you to find a sub-niche. So this was the first problem, finding an opportunity-rich sub-niche. Second one is defying the skepticism that is already existent in people. Because they will, if you are in a saturated sub-niche, that means with a lot of amateurs, then you will be called a lying scammer right off the rip. And if you present yourself like everyone else, then everyone in the market will think that you are a lying scammer. So to prevent this, first what you will do is introduce social proof. This means testimonials, interviews, reviews, stuff like that. Second, this is extremely important. Social proof is often not even enough. Second is having a differentiating and consistent branding. So having something that you are doing what other people are not really that, much focusing on, which is, for example, a new method, a new approach to something. I mean, like, look at this video. Most of the people in our market who are competing for the attention of online coaches don't make thought through, argumentative YouTube videos like this one. They just try to convince them through the DMs, sending a cold message without having an online presence whatsoever. So this is already a differentiating, consistent personal branding factor. And thirdly, just give people a low friction entry to your business. No one wants to wait in line when they are choosing something that they would not normally choose. So the second that you have convinced them with social proof and the differentiating consistent branding, you give them an easy way into your business. Don't necessarily stand in their way with excessive qualification or stuff like that, because remember, you are still in a competitive niche and people will be skeptical. The best way you can do this is, for example, renaming your strategy or demonstration calls as a free consultation, because a free consultation comes with less commitment from the point of the person booking the call, as, for example, a demonstration strategy or even application call, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so now you have an opportunity sub-niche and you have defied skepticism. Thirdly, you want to run your business effectively in order to keep the advantage that you have at first. So these two steps are essentially the first two steps that you will use to establish yourself and make money. And the third one is to keep your position in the market and actually leverage your first mover advantage that you found a niche, a sub-niche that is opportunity rich. So you want to leverage the fact that you were the first, and this is how you do it. So running your business correctly first starts with effort and capital. You input effort and capital, and then you get to the point of sale. You get to actually selling someone your service. I'm sure you know this, but after the point of sale, you have to fulfill. And after the fulfillment, whatever that may be, service or product, then you will ask for reviews and social proof. That means actually presenting case studies of your customers instead of just letting them run in the wild. Because let's say that this cycle over here is missing, so this part over here is missing. That will mean that whenever you stop inputting effort and capital, which is more expensive by the day, then your business will cease to exist, and we don't want that if we want to make a long-term strategy. So first you start with effort and capital, then comes the point of sale, then fulfillment. Then typically after the first bigger win, you will ask for reviews, social proof, testimonial interviews, whatever that may be. If you want to check it out on our YouTube channel, we have a couple of those interviews with our previous clients. And there you can see exactly who we work with and what you can expect when you work with us, when you get on a call with me, for example, and we go through your strategy. Now, from the reviews and social proof, you have the option to obviously get people as referrals and word of mouth. Or second, you can also increase the efficiency of your input capital and effort, which is essentially running ads, creating content, or whatever in that direction it may be. Those are the two main things. But any sort of marketing efforts, cold email, whatever, will be supported by your reviews and social proof. So what I like to say is that fulfillment is not only fulfillment. Fulfillment can also be the first step of marketing if done correctly. Because from the fulfillment, the reviews and social proof come, which are the best marketing. These are the best things to increase efficiency in your marketing. And that then straight leads to marketing itself. So this is how I think about it. And the second very important thing to pay attention to is to keep the promised delivery cycle as short as possible and as effective as possible. What does this mean? So there is a typical client journey. Let's say that people start at content, then go to a free resource, then to a sales call, then to the onboarding, then to the fulfillment, then they get a testimonial. So they do a testimonial with you, and then so on. Now, you want to start with a promise, which you do in the content, which is then delivered by, for example, the free resource, but very often already in the content. So To be honest, these cycles, this doesn't really represent all the cycles present, the promise delivery cycles, but essentially you want to make as many promises as you can, as massive promises as you can, and then deliver on them. Because that is what actually builds trust. You would start with a promise, then deliver, then another promise, then deliver again, then another promise, then deliver again, then another promise, then deliver again, then another promise, then deliver again. So, for example, in the context of this particular video that you're watching now, I started this with a promise. I started with the promise that saturated coaching niches don't exist. And I delivered by actually breaking down what most people think, why that is wrong, and how I would think about it differently, and how that different train of thought will enable you to actually find a rich sub-niche, opportunity-rich sub-niche, and establish yourself in that sub-niche instead of just blindly trying to figure things out. So if you got value from this video, and more importantly, a new perspective on your niche, which you might think is saturated, then, you know, do the YouTube things, subscribe, like, stuff like that. And also, if you're an online coach, consultant, or therapist, and you want help with your client acquisition system and want me personally to look at it and how you can improve the strategies that you're currently using, how you can supplement them with the best strategies that the best online coaches are currently using, then go to the first link down below. There you can schedule a quick call with me where we will be going over your funnel, analyzing everything in detail, and seeing if there's opportunity to work together. But if not, it's also perfectly fine, and I'll just send you on your way with some useful resources that you can use right away. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.